JNCTV 시청자 여러분, 안녕하세요. 김입니다. 오늘 파워 인터뷰에서는 JNCTV 최초로 미국의 현직 정치인을 모셨습니다. 바로 재선된 조지아주의 샘박 하원의원인데요. 오늘 샘박 의원님을 모시고 한반도 평화에 대한 의견과 최근에 어떤 활동을 하고 계시는지 들어보려고 합니다. Good morning, Sam.
Good morning.
As you know, North Korea and the U.S. had a summit 3 times already, and there's no Korean military conflict in Korean Peninsula so far. What do you think North Korea and the U.S. have to do to bring permanent peace to the Korean Peninsula?
So I think North Korea right now, and I think it's been longstanding U.S. policy for North Korea to denuclearize. And I think for the longest time, because there was no commitment to ensure that there is no nuclear weapons on the Korean Peninsula, that stood as a barrier for there to be a meeting between the United States and North Korea. I think under the Trump administration, since there were meetings regardless of whether that was on the table, that created an opening, I think, for a dialogue to begin. But on the side of North Korea, I think they need to demonstrate a desire for peace. And there's been concern that they haven't done that, especially with the testing of additional rockets and things of that nature. All the saber rattling that they continue to do, and of course that behavior has been rewarded. So that of course is concerning. That said, I think, you know, if North Korea truly wants an opportunity to bring peace to the region, they have to demonstrate a desire for peace. On the side of the United States of America, I think I would love to see greater commitment and a long-term comprehensive plan that involves the regional players, that includes economic incentives, but also security for the region as well. But at the very least, a long-term commitment and a plan for that region to begin taking steps so we can see progress regarding the two sides. And ultimately, you know, not just peace on the Korean Peninsula, but hopefully reunification.
Yeah. We appreciate your attendance at the seminar to discuss peace on the Korean Peninsula July 27th. We heard that you would consider proposing a bill to formally end the Korean War in Georgia House.
Mm-hmm.
Could you share your plans or thoughts?
Sure. So a few organizations came to me to discuss House Resolution 152. That's a congressional resolution that was introduced by Congressman Ro Khanna. And what that does is it essentially brings about or declares an end to the Korean War. I think I'm in favor of ensuring a peaceful resolution to the Korean armistice that was signed in 1953. However, after talking to a few other leaders in the Korean community, I'm still considering whether or not I will continue with the efforts of encouraging the Georgia House to support a congressional resolution, given that if peace is formally declared without there being an actual resolution, and if there is a withdrawal of troops as a result, if in the event, in the worst case scenario, that conflicts breaks out, I think there is a question as to whether or not the US Congress would have to redeclare a state of war in order for troops to come back in to bring peace to that region. So of course, you know, the Korean Peninsula and the conflict therein is one of the most complicated geopolitical issues that we currently face. So I think while we all want peace, that is everyone's objective. I think it's important for us to be wise and deliberate in how we achieve that, and ensure that we take the appropriate steps to not only ensure that we have peace on the Korean Peninsula, but that we have the support in doing so as well.
Could you introduce your recent accomplishments in Georgia House?
So as the only Korean American in the Georgia House, it's been an honor at the very least to ensure that we host and I help organize Korean American Day at the Capitol. Whenever I invite communities down to the Capitol, you know, I always tell them that this is their house. It's the people's house where they should feel comfortable. It is their taxpayer dollars that pay my salary, and I am to be their voice. So at the very least, making sure that the Korean American community in Atlanta has an opportunity to have their concerns and their voices heard, and that they feel welcome in their government, I think is very, very important. Earlier this year, I was very, very proud to pass a resolution commemorating the 100th anniversary of Korean independence. I think we saw that in a few other states like Seattle, Virginia, Maryland, where we have Korean Americans serving. And I think it's so important to capture our Korean history in our American government, because it demonstrates the importance of peace around the world, of democracy around the world, that these are universal values that we all share. And so I was very proud that we were able to pass that with bipartisan support. In terms of legislative accomplishments, I worked very hard on ensuring that our legislature, with bipartisan support again, passed a resolution encouraging the President of the United States and the US Congress to pass legislation at the federal level to give citizenship status to international adoptees. Of course, there were a lot of Koreans who were adopted in the 60s, 70s, and 80s after the Korean War who fell in a loophole in a law that was passed in 2000. And so I was glad that I was able to pass that. Perhaps the most important achievement, so to speak, though there's still a lot of work that needs to be done on the issue, is making progress on healthcare here in the state of Georgia. Back in 2016, I ran on ensuring all Georgians should have access to healthcare after my mother was diagnosed with cancer, and after it was public health insurance, Medicaid and Medicare, that gave her access to healthcare. After 3 years, our state legislature finally passed legislation opening the door to begin covering up to 500,000 Georgians. There are some issues with the legislation that I have concerns with, but nonetheless, I think for the first time in a very long time here in Georgia, for us to begin taking steps and making a little bit of progress on that issue is something that I'm incredibly proud of.
Congratulations on receiving the Public Service Leadership Award from YEO Network
Yes.
on August 2nd. Could you explain how you won this award?
So sure, it was actually quite a surprise. I didn't know I was even being nominated or running for anything, but I think based on the staff members and the other folks with the Young Elected Officials Network, YEO, they decided to recognize me and honor me with the award. So it was a surprise and very humbling.
Do you have any messages Korean Americans as well as Korean living in the world for watching this program?
So, when I was in Korea about 2 weeks ago, when I was in Seoul for the Overseas Korean Politicians Conference, where there were 60 Korean politicians from over 16 countries, it made me so proud of my Korean heritage. It made me so proud of kind of the cultural heritage that I have inherited and all of the strengths that we have as Korean people, given our rich history that's lasted, thousands of years. And so I think for Koreans around the world, one is to be proud of who you are, because we come from such a strong heritage and we are a strong people. But two, it's to use that power. Especially for Korean Americans, register to vote and vote in every election. The vast majority of countries throughout the world have some sort of democratic process. And so for Koreans around the world, I would say the same thing. Use your power. Make sure that your voice is heard by registering to vote and participating in your elections to improve your community, to be leaders in your community. And of course, to vote for the right people, right? Again, having an experience to talk to Koreans around the world, I think for the most part, we want peace. We want an opportunity to thrive. We want justice for all. And so I would encourage Koreans to register to vote, to participate in their elections, to lead, and also also reflect those values and what you do and who you are, and in the leaders and who you decide to support.
Thank you so much for today's interview, and we're so proud of you, and
Thank you
we
so
continue
much.
to support you.
Thank you, thank you. It's my pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. 미국 지역에서 한반도 평화와 한인 사회 권위 신장을 위해서 이렇게 열심히 뛰고 계시는 한인 정치인이 계시니 정말 든든합니다. 앞으로 한반도 평화를 위해 더 큰 일을 하실 수 있도록 샘박 위원님한테 더 큰 지지를 부탁드리면서 오늘 인터뷰 여기서 마치겠습니다. 지금까지 시청해주신 JNCTV 시청자 여러분, 감사합니다.
더 나은 세상을 위해 공정한 언론의 역할을 다하고자 노력하는 JNCTV는 전 제작진의 자발적인 참여로 만들어지는 독립 언론이자 대한 매체입니다. 방송이 마음에 드셨다면 응원의 표시로 지금 좋아요, 구독 버튼을 눌러주세요. 감사합니다.